Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1, like previous seasons, has left us with more questions than answers. With so many things unresolved both involving and not involving the Sekai Taikai, it seems like we may have some answers for what awaits us in November. This is what will happen in Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2. It goes without saying there are spoilers ahead, so proceed with caution. First, let's talk about Chozen's return, how that affects Daniel and Johnny, and whether he ends up with Kumiko. A lot of people seem to be confused about his absence in Underdogs and Best of the Best, but if you rewatch his last scene in the episode Sleeper, he repeats Amanda's advice to Daniel when looking up tickets to Okinawa. Make the most of the time we have with the people we love while they're here. If you recall in the Season 5 episode Survivors, Daniel reassures Chozen that Kumiko knows he's changed and that she's the reason why he's here. There's a very strong chance that this plotline will get resolved when Kumiko hears out Chozen how he feels and urges him to help Daniel with the tournament. Will they get together? It's too early to call, but considering how deep of a friendship they've had since they were children, it's possible. That brings us to Chozen rejoining Miyagi-Do's team as a sensei in the Sekai Taikai. Netflix recently put out Cobra Kai Inside the Dojo Part 1 along with the first 5 episodes in Season 6. Most of the cast is wearing a Miyagi-Do gi for the tournament. The difference between their normal gis and the Taikai gis is that there's an American flag on their left sleeve, and these same gis can be seen in Best of the Best. Now obviously, some castmates are wearing the gis just for the sake of the interview that aren't on the team. For example, Griffin, Dallas, Peyton, and Yuji, Chozen's actor. However, near the end of the program, they show some upcoming parts of Part 2 with a behind-the-scenes video showing Yuji present with both Ralph and William. This means he will be there to help coach the team. As some of you may remember in my early videos, for example, my prediction of Robbie joining Cobra Kai being confirmed by Reunited Apart, interviews like this will often put details out in plain sight. How will that affect Daniel and Johnny? There is a scene showing them walking outside and talking, possibly either about the tournament or resolving their disagreements. I imagine Chozen will come in and remind them to get on the same page, something they discussed near the end of Peacetime in the Valley. Otherwise, Cobra Kai will be sure to have an easy victory. The second theory I'd like to discuss is, will Tory return to Miyagi-Do and what will her relationship be like with Robbie? As I mentioned before, Peyton List in the interviews is shown wearing a Miyagi-Do gi, but she clearly joins Cobra Kai at the end of Best of the Best. The only way I could see this happening is if she has a change of heart, and there happens to be an open slot on Miyagi-Do's team. A slot would be available if Daniel and Johnny find out about Devin sabotaging Kenny's water bottle during Barnes' final exercise, or in classic Karate Kid and Cobra Kai fashion, someone is injured during the tournament. Near the end of Inside the Dojo, Robbie and Tory are seen at a bar where Keen nods his head while Tory looks up from her drink. No doubt the conversation will be about the deal they made at Miyagi-Do of sticking together and winning no matter what. Robbie may even be able to get through to her why fighting to the finish in a bad headspace isn't the best option given how he injured Miguel during the West Valley School brawl. In the worst case, if she doesn't return to Miyagi-Do, Tory's arc will still be a highlight of the final season. Third, let's talk about who are the other 2 members of Cobra Kai. Kwon and Tory are both the captains, as confirmed in Inside the Dojo, Chung-hee, the student who held the board for both Kwon and Yoon in Sleeper, and Min-so. During the preview of Part 2 from Inside the Dojo, we see Kwon demonstrating a kick at either a museum or a zoo, with the 2 students as mentioned before, and one that wasn't shown during Best of the Best, Yoon Do-jin. The final member seems to be female, as there is a shot showing Kreese looking towards Daniel and Johnny, with a female student behind him wearing a black gi standing next to Chung-hee. This would make the most sense as Miyagi-Do's team has 2 female members, Sam and Devin. Granted, some teams only have 2 female members and some with more than 2, but I'm leaning more towards the 2 girls and 4 guys for Cobra Kai. There is a persistent rumor that Kenny could be a member of Cobra Kai's team, but I think that's very unlikely to happen given how much he disliked Cobra Kai at the start of the season, and the only sensei he took to was Silver during his time there, as Kreese didn't think he had much potential in minefields. Fourth, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Will Terry Silver return? As I've mentioned in previous videos, I cannot see the show ending without at least one appearance from Silver. Given how he is Hayden Schlossberg's favorite character, he will make an appearance at some point, whether that's in the Valley or at the Sekai Taikai. While it's still too early to tell how he would appear in the show, one possibility I could see is that he would make it to the tournament, causing some conflict as it was the team he coached that earned a spot in the Sekai Taikai. However, he is on bad terms at this point with Kim Da-eun and Kreese, and similarly to how Kreese had nearly no one left, Harry is going to have his back against the wall. Maybe this will result in a fight between Kreese and Silver, which I feel like we need to see before the show ends, but there's no way that Scary Terry won't make an appearance. The fifth theory, what will the relationship be like between Demetri and Hawk? As we saw in Underdogs, Hawk realizes that he may not want to go to MIT after the fight at the frat party. Demetri, however, still believed that the two would go to school together. The binary brothers get into an argument before the final challenge, and this gives Demetri the motivation to bring out his inner Eagle Fang by taking the flag from Hawk. From this point on, his demeanor also changes. He spikes his hair and walks around with the swagger, becoming even more sarcastic towards Hawk, and even Sam, who is genuinely complimenting him for getting into MIT. When Hawk is chosen as Tory's replacement, Demetri simply looks at him and doesn't even smile. It's also worth pointing out that in Inside the Dojo, there's a shot where Robbie looks at Miguel and Demetri, and Devin and Hawk are likely behind them, as we see someone in a white gi standing behind the four in front. Another behind-the-scenes shot shows Hawk in a group fight during the tournament. I suspect that they'll eventually forgive each other for their actions, but it is interesting seeing the role swap where Demetri is now more overconfident and Hawk is laid back. If Demetri is not careful, he could wind up hurt by letting the pride get to his head. The sixth topic, what will happen with Kenny and Anthony now? I was half expecting this rivalry to be resolved in part 1, but thanks to Devin sabotaging Kenny's water bottle, this has escalated the conflict even more. Anthony losing to Kenny during the Capture the Flag challenge I feel was one of the best writing choices they made during part 1, as it would have been a little too predictable for Anthony to get a win over Kenny. I imagine the relationship between the two will get a little more tense and back to their old rivalry, leading to a final and decisive fight. This rivalry cannot be resolved without Leah at the very least, who so far has still been absent since Minefields, and while it may not be necessary, I'd like for Zach to be also somewhat involved in this storyline. My guess is that we will cut between what's happening in the Valley and at the Sekai Taikai for both parts 2 and 3. The seventh topic, will we see more of Kim Sun Young? I don't know if we need a final fight where Chozen, Daniel, and Johnny take on Kim Sun Young, but it would be nice to at least explore the rivalry between him and Sato, as Chozen mentioned in Long Long Way From Home. The fact that Master Kim was alive was something I was not expecting, cue the meme that he's too angry to die, but it's possible that he was younger than Miyagi, given that Chozen also stated that Kim Sun Young became prominent during the Korean War as he taught many American soldiers, and Captain Turner also confirms that he learned Tong Soo Do directly from Master Kim in the Season 3 episode King Cobra. I imagine we will find out more about the history of the Kim family and hope to shed some light on his rivalry with Sato. If he were to fight today, my guess or hope would be that instead of fighting Daniel and Johnny, maybe Kreese would fight him for control or even revenge, as Johnny fought Kreese for the latter reason, or even Silver fighting Master Kim. The final theory and storyline, will we find out more about Mr. Miyagi participating in the Sekai Taikai? My guess will be yes, as I feel there needs to be more light shed on this. I thought that the secret briefcase Miyagi had in Sleeper didn't serve much purpose, outside of reiterating the fact that Daniel needed to learn that like everyone else, Miyagi was human and made mistakes. My first thought that was upon seeing the boxing gloves, we were going to get some explanation as to why Mr. Miyagi was so good at his karate and defense is that he also studied boxing and incorporated that into Miyagi-Do. This would explain why he taught Daniel how to throw his punches by using his hips to drive power, though again, I'm not a martial arts expert nor claim to be one, just pure speculation, in the first Karate Kid film. I imagine that some people who have either fought in or attended previous Sekai Taikai tournaments will hear the name Miyagi-Do and give us insight on why Miyagi participated in the tournament. As I mentioned in my Easter eggs video for Season 6 Part 1, this would explain why Miyagi was so adamant about Daniel participating in tournaments if he didn't have to. This is one of the plot lines I'm looking forward to the most in Season 6 Part 2, as we'll get some more insight into Mr. Miyagi's life. We have a lot of interesting plot lines going into Season 6 Part 2, and November can't get here fast enough. As always, I'm curious to see how the next part plays out, as the stakes are higher than they've ever been. Until then, we can only speculate. Speaking of speculation, I recently gave my thoughts on Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1 and all of the Easter eggs and references I found. What are some that you found in Part 1 and what are you looking forward to in Part 2?